Hello students, I am Ritika Bajpayee, Assistant Professor at Axis Institute of Planning and Management. In the lecture series of Business Environment and Legal Aspects of the Business, today I will cover the competitive and international environment in the 13th lecture of Unit 2. Now, the very first is competitive environment. So, before understanding the competitive environment, the first question that comes to our mind is what is competitiveness? So, let us understand. Competitiveness is essentially the ability of a firm, sector or economy to compete against other firms, sectors or economies, right? This is what? This is just the ability of one firm or sector or an economy to compete with the other firm, sector or the economy, simple. However, it is taken to mean the ability of a firm, sector or economy to compete internationally, that is with their equivalents in other countries, right. This competitiveness can be in the same country and can be at the international level as well. So, in other words, the macroeconomic rather than the microeconomic competitiveness. So, generally when we talk about the competitive environment, so this is about the competitiveness of the home country and the competitiveness with the host country as well. That is what which comes under the macro competitiveness, just as the microeconomic environment and the macro and the microeconomic elements which we have studied in the economic environment. In the same way we have the micro competitiveness and we have the macro competitiveness, one which is having the short impact and other which is having the greater or the larger impact. Okay, now let us talk about the competitive environment. The competitive environment also changes from country to country, okay, and this is partly because of the economic, political, cultural and the cultural environments, right. These environmental factors help determine the type and the degree of competition that exists in a given country, right. You go to any of the country, आप किसी भी country में अपने business को expand करोगे, you will find all the macro the macro business factors, the macro factors which impact the business. It either it be the cultural environment, the political environment, the economic environment, right. We have the pestle, if you remember, we have the pestle in that way, right. Political, economic, social, technical, okay, legal. So, we have all these factors, a set of the factors which will have impact on every of the competitive environment, right, on every of the economy. So, whenever we talk about the competitive environment, so we have to understand and we have to consider all these factors as well, the political, environmental, social, cultural and technological and legal factor, right. So, these factors actually determine the degree of competition that exists in a given country, right. Competition can come from a variety of sources. It can be a public or a private sector, public या private sector से competition आ सकता है. It can be from the large or the small organizations, be it like it can be from the domestic, it can be from the global organizations and stem from the traditional or new competitors, okay. An existing firm which is actually in the existence from last 20 years can give you the competition, can be the reason of competition, or a newly existed firm from the last 2 years can also be your competitor, right, can give you competition. So, for example, like the GST registration. For a domestic firm, the most likely sources of competition might be well understood. The same is not the case when a person moves to compete in the new environment, okay. These factors and all this the competitive environment used to change when we used to shift from one environment to another environment. A competitive environment is also has a positive effect on the customers, right. To win the attention of customer, Businesses offer high quality goods at an affordable price. Whenever there is high competition in the market, this is always profitable or a positive situation for the customers, because to win the competition, every organization will offer a different, will offer better quality of the product or service. It will offer something new every day with the updated technology. So this is what, this is actually beneficial for the customers of that particular market, right? Okay, so besides companies have to bring out their products through innovations, yet competition can complicate the existence of a business. Okay, so let's take the companies within one location. For example, one of them can set low prices and discounts, making the company unable to compete. Okay, now let us understand the type of competitive environment, right? We have, when we talk about the competitive environment, so we have the 4 type of the competitions in the market. We have the pure competition, we have monopolistic competition, we have oligopoly competition, and we have the monopoly competition. Now let us understand the pure competition. Pure competition, in a perfectly competitive environment, many small companies produce similar products. Remember, many small companies which produce the similar products, right? And many consumers buy them. So these manufacturers are small, so they can't influence the price, right? These are the small manufacturers, so they cannot influence the price, they cannot offer big discounts. The price is defined by supply and the product demand, and this supply and demand is what? This is what the product, the price mechanism, right? For example, when a farmer brings dairy products to the local market, this person can't change the market price and agrees with the going ones, right? So small manufacturers are there, small companies are here, so they cannot actually play with the prices, they have to follow the price mechanism. That is what? That is pure competition. Now let us talk about the monopolistic competition. In this environment, there are many manufacturers, but they produce different products. If you remember, under the pure competition, there is production of the similar products, right? Under the monopolistic competition, there is manufacturing of the different products, okay? Although they might serve the same purpose, the purpose can be the same, but the product comes in the different forms, the different products are there. Okay, so customers can distinguish the products because of the differences in the quality, features, etc. Under the pure competition, they were not able to distinguish, if you remember. So businesses actively use advertising to promote their products and convince customer that their product differ and have the high quality or the better quality, right? So the companies in the monopolistic competition are the price makers, right? If you remember, under the pure competition, this was what? This was actually the price mechanism, and under the monopolistic competition, manufacturers or the companies are actually the price makers, right? What price makers means? What? They have the power to influence the prices of the product, right? And however, to justify the prices increase of their products, they should differentiate them from other businesses, and for example, by improving the quality of the company's goods. So by improving the quality of the goods, by introducing a new technology, by introducing a new strategy, a new offer, a new discount, they can actually control the price. So that's why they are called as the price makers, right? Now let us talk about the third type, that is oligopoly. Oligopoly is what? In this market model, there is a small number of businesses, usually 2 or more, okay? So this small is what? It can be 2 or more only, and it is considered stable as companies do not compete but collude, right? Companies don't actually compete but collude. to obtain the high market returns, and firms set and keep prices high together or under the leadership of one particular company. In an oligopoly, profit margins are higher than in the more the more competitive environment. In the oligopoly, the profit margins are actually higher. And however, the main problem of this market structure is that businesses often face a prisoner's dilemma and an incentive to cheat and act in their interest at the expense of the other companies. So, this is what the biggest problem of the oligopoly competition. Now, let us talk about the monopoly. Monopoly is a very common term, and I hope you all are having idea about it. So, there is one company that produces a unique product. Okay? Under the monopoly, the main thing you have to remember that there is only one company. Okay? And this manufacturer does not face any competition, and the product does not have any substitute as well. The biggest problem of the monopoly is this, that the customers do not have the choice, they do not have the substitute, they have to purchase what the manufacturer is offering, right. Also, a monopolist decides on the price of the product and set barriers for the new companies to enter. Under the monopolistic market, where this practice of competition is going on, it is very difficult for a new business to start, a new person or a new entrepreneur to enter, because it have to provide the same product with the same quality and the same aesthetics which a person who is also already existing in the monopoly is providing. Okay. Okay, so this was about the competition, the type of competition. Now, let us talk about the competitive environment analysis. In order to do the competitive environment analysis, we have many of these strategies available. So, the very first is SWOT analysis. You can assess the internal. SWOT analysis is what I think everyone knows, that SWOT analysis stands for, S stands for the strength, W stands for the weakness, O stands for the opportunity, and T stands for what? For threat, right. So, you can assess the external and internal factors that influence your company with the help of the SWOT analysis, as strength and weaknesses are something which are internally related to your organization, and opportunities and threat are something which are the external part of the organization. This framework helps you to identify competitive advantages and compare your competitors' strong and weak sides on the different marketing channels and define your further marketing steps, right. So, with the help of the opportunities and threat, you will get to know about the competitive your competitive strength and what can be the problem for you and what can be the right strategy or the right proactive step to tackle that problem and convert it into the opportunity. Now, let us talk about the strategy group analysis. It allows you to identify the positions of your competitors in the competitive environment, right. Strategic group analysis helps an organization to analyze the position of your competitor in the market. Okay. In the competitive environment and the factors that bring your business a profit. आपके कॉम्पिटिटर के क्या पोजीशन है कॉम्पिटिटिव एनवायरनमेंट में और कौन से फैक्टर हैं जो आपके बिजनेस को प्रॉफिटेबल बना सकते हैं, ये आपको पता चलेगा स्ट्रैटेजिक ग्रुप एनालिसिस से. दिस फ्रेमवर्क कैरेक्टराइजेज द स्ट्रैटेजी of all competitors in various strategic dimensions, okay, and it also enables you to identify the key factors of the success and assess your position among companies in the position among your competitors in the competitive environment. Now, let us talk about the different strategy, that is Porter 5 forces analysis. If you remember when we were studying the unit 1, so I have already discussed the Porter 5 forces analysis in detail, and it is also a good strategy or an analysis which helps or a framework which helps to explore the competitive market forces. It helps in getting knowledge about the competitive market forces in the industry, okay, and it helps in defining the industry's strengths and the weaknesses. If you remember, it also gives you an idea about the how lucrative an industry is, So, it involves the 5 elements. First of all, the new entrant, the buyers, the new entrant of buyer, the supplier, the substitute, and the competitive rivalry. Okay, so these were the 5 forces, which were the part of the 5 forces model. So these 5 forces actually influence the level of competition of your industry, your level in the industry. Okay, so after the competitive environment, the next environment we have is the global environment. The global environment refers to those global factors which are relevant to business, such as कुछ भी ऐसे ग्लोबल फैक्टर, इंटरनेशनल मार्केट के फैक्टर्स जो कि आपके बिजनेस के लिए रेलेवेंट हैं, वो ग्लोबल एनवायरनमेंट का पार्ट है. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ़ यू टॉक अबाउट द WTO प्रिंसिपल्स एंड द एग्रीमेंट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड ट्रेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, राइट. WTO stands for what? World Trade Organization. So when you are doing your business at international level, so you have to follow the principles and the guidelines, the agreements introduced by the WTO, right. And there are many other international conventions, treaties, agreements, declarations and the protocols etc. that you have to follow while going global, right. And economic and the business conditions, the sentiment in the other countries etc. are required to consider while talking about the global environment. Okay. So similarly, there are certain developments like the hike in the crude oil price which have the global impact. So all these things are also having the global impact. Okay, the WTO principles and the regulations have far-reaching implications for Indian business. Acceptance of the product patents, for example, seriously impacts the Indian pharmaceutical industry. So there are the number of the agreements and the protocols and the treaties of WTO and the GATT which actually affects the business of any of the industry which wants to go global. The import and investment liberalizations mandated by WTO have substantially changed the competitive environment in India. The changes in the external value of the currencies like like the US dollar, euro, pound, sterling etc. have economic implication for other countries. Like when you want to expand your business at the global level, you want to expand your operational or marketing functions in the host countries. So the the changes in the value of the currencies, the changes in the crude oil prices, the changes introduced by the WTO, that is World Trade Organization, these actually have a direct impact on your business. I won't say they have indirect impact, they actually have the direct impact on your business. So the important developments in the major stock markets of the world may impact the stock market of the other countries, right. Because now this is a culture in which we are living is the culture of MNCs. This is we are actually living in a global economy, right, where there are no boundaries in it is a borderless economy when a whole world world is a global economy. So change in the value of a stock of one company is not only have impact in one country only. This is not limited to one country only. This is having impact on all the countries. So international political factors can also affect the business, like war or the political tensions or the uncertainties, the strained political relations between the nation and the other countries, like which sometimes even culminates in which sometimes even culminates in sanctions. So the political unrest between the countries also impacts the business. Okay, so these were the forces which comes under the the global environment, and we need to understand, like the political unrest, like that is something which actually which goes on between the India and the Pakistan and other between the other countries as well. So these political forces and the cultural forces that we have already discussed, right? Again we have to consider the pestle. Even when we are talking about the global environment, we have to again consider the pestle, right? Any change in the political environment, the political unrest, any of the decision of the political party, any of the war situation between the countries, when the countries which are in the trade actually becomes the enemies, enemies, so that actually create a problem for the business. All these things are having impact on the business. Okay, next the economic environment. If अगर किसी एक कंट्री का इकोनॉमी डाउन जा रहा है, जीडीपी डाउन जा रहा है, कंट्री का ग्रोथ नहीं है, सो क्या होगा कि एक कंट्री का ग्रोथ रेट डाउन होने से वो सारे ही बिजनेसेस को इम्पैक्ट करेगा. इट विल अफेक्ट ऑल द कंट्रीज, बिकॉज as I have said, we are living in the era where this is an MNC culture now everywhere, right? Now every country is having the operational and the marketing marketing functions in almost all the all the countries. Now it is not the situation when when a company is only at the international level. We are actually at the situation where the companies are running at the global level, right? Global level is what? When the marketing and the marketing and the operational functions both are running in one or more host countries, like whenever they are getting the favorable situation, they start the business. We are we are in the era where the licensing, the franchising, joint ventures, mergers and the acquisition, these are very common things, and businesses are running based on these strategies only, right? So all these things actually having the global impact, right? Now if we talk about the social environment, so as we have discussed earlier, social environment and the cultural factors are also having a global impact and also impact the global environment. Now if we talk about the technology, so there is actually difference in the technology between the developing and the developed countries. Like developing countries are having a technology which is actually not that much developed, right? So we have like if there is a technology transfer, that with the expansion of the firms and with the growth of the globalization, there is technology transfer. We are actually we are actually developing in the terms of the technology. So but still there is technology lag, there is lag in technology adaptation, and there are a number of the things which affects when we talk about the global environment. And the economic and the legal environment also impacts at large. Like every country is having the different set of the rules, regulations and the laws. Like if India is having the minimum wages act, so USA might be having the different set of the act. Like if we talk about the labor laws in India, so we have the Factories Act, we have the Minimum Wages Act, we have the Payment of Wages Act, the Compensation Act, the Gratuity Act, like the PF Act. So now if we if one is running business in India, so this is very simple. Like for me it is very simple, because I have almost knowledge of all the laws and the formalities which are there in India. But now if I want to expand my business to USA, so I have to understand the the laws and the regulations which are there in the USA. If I want to expand it to the Japan, again I have to understand the laws and the regulations of that particular country. So these legal factors are actually having the direct impact when when going global. If a business is not having a clear understanding about the laws and the regulations of other country, so it is not even possible to start their business. To run and to sustain is a thing which is very far away, but the very first thing is to establish your business, right. The very first is to establish your business in the host country. So, that is even not possible if you do not have the understanding of the legal environment or any of the or any of the other factor, say the political, the legal, social, cultural, technological, legal, whatever it is, right. So, in that way the global environment runs, and if a business wants to actually go global, wants to actually establish its marketing and the operational functionalities in other countries, in the host countries. So, this is very much required to have a detailed and deep understanding of all the all the global factors, all the factors which are related to the global environment. Okay, so in that way in this lecture we have covered the competitive environment and the global environment. So, here are the references which I have actually taken for making this presentation. Okay, thank you everyone. In the upcoming lectures definitely we will discuss a big reform which was introduced in the industrial policy 1991, and that was LPG, liberalization, privatization and globalization. Okay, thank you.